Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a review video for the 2020 Rocket Mortgage Classic, where Bryson DeChambeau is your winner. But before we get into the video, I like to remind you, like I do in all of my videos, you can watch us in a faster speed. If you're on desktop, go ahead, hover your mouse over the screen or over my face. You'll see a gear icon somewhere down here. Drill down on that. You'll find playback speed. I prefer 1.5, but if you want to cut this video in half, choose 2 times speed. You'll find those options also for mobile. Top right corner, you'll see three dots that make a vertical line. Drill down on that, you'll find those same options there. I will also have timestamps in the description so you can get to whatever part you find interesting or important. It's all about making life easy. Okay, let's go ahead and get in the spreadsheet. I have the results page up right now. Bryson DeChambeau won 23 under. He won by 3 shots, but it was a lot closer than that. Matthew Wolff had an opportunity to close in a few times, but ultimately faltered and could not catch Bryson DeChambeau. Bryson ended up birding the last hole, which really eliminated any chances for Matthew Wolff. Like, he had a eagle putt on the par 5, I think 17th. And I want to say he 3-putted for par. I think that's how it went. Or perhaps he did birdie and Bryson was just that far ahead. But there was another opportunity where he had another eagle putt or chip or something like that on the par 5. Where Bryson, did he bogey that hole? Can't remember, but there were opportunities. Bryson looked solid throughout this tournament. I was driving most of the day on Sunday, so I was listening to the tournament quite a bit. I didn't get to see anything, but the way that Bryson played was like, 'cause I watched Thursday and Friday and a little bit on Saturday. He's truly bombing and gouging. He's hitting the ball inside the distance. So like when it comes to shots gained, he's hitting it inside 30 yards to the green, which means there are no approach stats. He's going from tee to approach, or he's going from tee to around the green. So it's really interesting, and he's putting himself in the best spots. Like, if he needs to miss left, he's missing left. If he misses right, he's missing right. I don't know at what degree of accuracy he's doing it, but he's doing it nonetheless. He's putting himself in really good positions, and regardless of how good his chipping is or is around the green stats are, where he gets to hit from in the rough and where he puts it is as close as most people are putting it from 100 yards to 125 yards. Like, there's no downfall, no downside to that. I mean, obviously, if he's hitting into hazards and stuff, yes. But hitting it there and putting it to 6 to 7 feet, that's probably the worst he's ever going to do from those situations, from those places. So Bryson's really onto something. And I mean, we all knew it was a matter of when, not if. He was going to win another tournament. For how hot he was after break coming into this with his bulking up and all that stuff, it was just a matter of when. So to see Bryson win when the last few tournaments that he played where he was top 10, like, it was the writing was on the wall. We knew he was going to win. I kind of have a little bit of a beef with people who say there are certain golf courses that don't fit his eye. Have you asked Bryson that they don't fit his eye? Like Harbor Town? Just because he's a bomber doesn't mean it doesn't fit his eye. Like, relatively speaking, I'm a bomber compared to my friends. I love shaping shots. My strength is going to be hitting the ball further than my peers, but I don't mind if it's tree lined. I don't mind, like, I will go up over them or I'll go around them. But my distance isn't getting altered. And I get it. There are some holes at like Harbor Town where you just can't hit over. But then that doesn't mean Bryson, that's his only avenue. Like, he can shape shots. So to say that these tournaments aren't suited for Bryson is kind of an amateur statement. Like, I wouldn't say that about someone who clearly plays well in accuracy types of courses. So just because he's deemed a bomber does not mean he can't hit accurate shots. And it's a foolish thing to say. So that's my only beef. Okay. The rest of the golfers up there, Kevin Kisner, it's good to see him. He'd missed the last 2 cuts. So it was awesome to see Kevin Kisner at the top, top 5. I didn't play a lot of them, but I did play some. I mean, that's kind of how the lineup construction process, it told me to play some of Kevin Kisner, so I did. Same with Matthew Wolff. Matthew Wolff was a cheap player. He was $6,900. Like, we should have played. And I guess I'll save this analysis for the DK page. I shouldn't be doing it here. We'll just talk about the players that we see up there and if it was a surprise or not. I really liked Maverick McNeely. I should say this. Let's talk about the thumbnails I had throughout the week. So our preview video was Bryson. Like, obviously Bryson was the favorite for everyone, but he was also my favorite. Everything looked good to have, for him to place top 5. Like, I think you had to play him regardless of his price tag. And then our lineup construction video had Tyrrell Hatton on it, as well as Webb Simpson. So, like, those 2 golfers obviously finished inside the top 10. At their price tag, you wouldn't want to play Webb. You could have played Tyrrell Hatton, and we would get into that. Again, I don't know why I keep bringing up DK analysis. Let's stop doing that. Maverick McNeely is an up-and-coming star. Definitely like him moving forward. Cam Champ. He was introduced back into the field after passing 2 COVID-19 tests. He was a late ad. He was not in the DraftKings pool. But very, very cool to see him there. Ricky Fowler, good to see him up there as well. If you guys don't know, he's been battling swing changes. He had a new swing coach. It looks like he just isn't as comfortable shaping shots right now. I think give him a little bit of time, he'll end up figuring it out. Obviously, seeing a 14 underscore is a good sign, but as I was watching him Thursday, Friday, I would still say there's a little bit of caution, pump the brakes, don't play a lot of him because he still doesn't seem like he has it quite yet. Tom Lewis, Matt Wallace, these are European golfers that have done well in other American tournaments. They're top 100 golfers. It's no surprise to see them there. Jonathan Bird, it's good to see him there. Like in 12th place. Like he's been on tour for a while, but I can't remember if he had injury issues. I think last time I remember him winning was the Shriners Hospital Open. So I don't know what has been going on with him, but it's good to see him back up there. And he was a very low price guy. Okay. Troy Merritt, another top 10 finish. He had a top 10 finish last year, I think. Oh, nope. I was mixing that up with Cameron Tringali. But Sepp Straka, an 8th place finish this year, 11th place the year before. I'm still trying to search for... never mind. No worries. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into the spreadsheet. I should not have waited that long. So I have the 2020 recent form tab up. This is where we go over optimal lineup versus Millie Maker lineup. Talk about the points, who's in the optimal lineup, that kind of thing. Let me go ahead and scroll over so you can see their salary. This recent form tab, it looks at the last 7 weeks of results, finishing positions. Now, of course, we really only had 3 tournaments since coming back from the break. I don't mind including this. This is good to have for future information, and it does actually incorporate into this number over here, the recent form average number. I think it's fine. Like, it's kind of a trial run. I'm not too keen, or I don't think it's that important to really be looking at these stats here, but it's good to have just for future reference in case something like this ever happens again, But recent form, you can see like Matthew Wolff and Kevin Kisner did not have very good recent form. and neither did Danny Willett. 3 missed cuts since coming back. How are you to predict or feel comfortable playing Danny Willett? It's difficult when you look at something like this. Kind of the same thing applies for Sepp Straka. Like, other than his 11th place finish the year before, you know, why would we want to play him? You know, how comfortable are we playing him? So anyways, the recent form stuff, I wouldn't really think too much about it. Not at least for this tournament. It's good to see. It's fun to look at. But as we can see, the Millie Maker lineup are golfers that are highlighted in blue. So the winning lineup had Bryson DeChambeau, Matthew Wolff, Adam Hadwin, Danny Willett, Sepp Straka, and Victor Hovland. The winner used up all $50,000 of their salary, ended up scoring 692 points. The optimal lineup was $48,000, so you would leave $2,000 on the table, and that was Bryson DeChambeau, Matthew Wolff, Kevin Kisner, Adam Hadwin, Ryan Armour, and Sepp Straka, and that equaled 724. So between the Millie Maker winning lineup and the optimal lineup, there was still some room where if you didn't have the optimal lineup, you still could have won the Millie Maker. And really, that would have just been, you know, substituting some of these guys. You still needed Bryson. You still would have needed Matthew Wolff. And I would have put Kevin Kisner on there as well. I guess you really couldn't do much more than that. I suppose if you changed out Adam Hadwin with Kevin Kisner, and included, I guess, the other $6,000 guys. So we would say 5. Can we go something like this? I suppose we can still have Adam Hadwin, right? Either way, there are ways. Obviously, you can see the points that the golfers scored. You can rearrange this however you'd like. I would say this. Throughout the rest of the video, I would pause, you know, screenshot if you want this information, if you find it valuable, just to take a look at it. But basically, there was room to create different lineups. I mean, like Troy Merritt, 102, Sepp Straka, 103, Bryson, Matthew Wolff, and then add Kevin Kisner to it. And so we have 5 golfers there. I really don't know what the price is, but then you could add someone like Ryan Armour to it. So that's 713 points. Like there was a way to do it. So we won't continue going down that route. Let's look into the 2020 DraftKings spreadsheet where I have all of the stats laid out. Because I don't have anything else to talk about. I just wanted to show you how many points each lineup scored, what their price tag was, or how much salary you would have to use up. So since we did that, we can move on. I have the DraftKings spreadsheet up right now. I think the first thing we're gonna look at, just kind of because we want to hide that information. First of all, look at all the golfers that are top 300 in the official World Golf Ranking. You know, your whole top 10 has nothing but top 300 golfers. And I think that was a good, like, I remember in the lineup construction video getting on a golfer like Matt Wallace, because he was 49th in the world, $6,700. Not a lot of money. You know, it did not cost a lot to own him. Same thing really applies for someone like Danny Willett, 6,600, and he's the 36th ranked golfer. I get it, his recent form was not good, but at this price, I mean, the risk, I think, it isn't that big of a risk. Now, if Danny Willett was like $8,000 with that recent form, obviously, I would not feel comfortable playing him. Again, you would want to because he finished 4th, but for the most part, yeah, no, I really wouldn't have wanted to play him, except for the fact that he was under 7K. He was in tier 3. He was a tier 3 golfer, as was Matt Wallace. I mean, a lot of the guys that are at the top of the leaderboard, like, let's point out all the 6K or the 6.9 and below. This was our tier 3 golfers, dominated, you know, most of these lineups here in the top 10. So we had, out of 11 golfers, 5 of them that finished, 6,900 or below in salary. That's pretty insane. And the same thing applied last week in the tournament at the Travelers. Like there were a lot of golfers that were under $7,000. So it's something I'm really looking into, and I'm trying to theory craft how to create lineups based off of it. I'm gonna find some kind of equation. Right now we're kind of, we're dedicating. So there's 6 positions. We're dedicating 2 positions to tier 1 golfers, 2 positions to tier 2, and 1 to tier 3, and then that 5th, well, I should say the 6th position that's open. It all just depends on how much salary is left over. Well, most of the time, the salary that's left over is over $8,000. So I'm not, digging for a third, or not even a third, but a second tier 3 golfer. I think the numbers would state out we need to find that. But of course, Bryson was a tier 1 golfer. Victor Hovland was a tier 1 golfer. A tier 2 golfer would have been Kisner. Another tier 2 golfer would have been Adam Hadwin. We don't really have a lot of money to play with. You could have put Seamus Power on your team, and we would have had $6,400 left. So you could put Troy Merritt. So that's $50,000 you could have used. That's incorporating all 3 tiers, 2 positions each for each tier. It just doesn't work out all that great. And, we had to dig down to Victor Hovland, who was a part of the Millie Maker lineup. Don't get me wrong. But it's just not something. It's one lineup. You want to be able to create so many different lineups, but that's one. Obviously, I guess we could change Kisner out with Maverick McNeely. You could change Adam Hadwin out. With like Mark Hubbard. And so now we get to different types of pricing, because Maverick McNeely and Mark Hubbard are tier 2 golfers. And then you could obviously take out Seamus Power and Troy Merritt, go with Sepp Straka and Ryan Armour. Nope, you can't go with Ryan Armour, too much. But you could go with Matthew Wolff, and that itself is $50,000. So the whole tier, is working out. It's just, I think I'm going to alter how I do the tiers. I think it's going to be 9,000 and above and not 8,600 and above. That way it gives us a smaller player pool, where hopefully we're doubling down on the top price guys a little bit more. So we're having to dig into the lower tiers. But I think I still want to open up. If we still want to open up tier 3. I'm like thinking to myself how to do this, and I shouldn't waste your guys' time. I'll figure out a way to do that and apply it to the next lineup construction video. I do have an idea of how to do it. I shouldn't. Yeah, okay. Anyways, so I guess going off of the whole tier thing, we no longer needing to talk about that. We're talking about, because the 6,900 and below tier, if you just paired up any of those with their golf ranking, you would have much more comfort. And that was kind of what the strategy I was trying to implore during the lineup construction video when I was talking about Matt Wallace. I really wasn't talking about Danny Willett, but as you can see, like, Danny Willett was a good play. A lot of these golfers were good plays that were 6,000 or 6,900 and below because of their official World Golf ranking. So that's where I would then choose, I would say definitely look at that going forward. When it comes to pairing golfers up, like based off of their tee time, over here you can see, the game number. The game number applies to their tee time and their starting hole. You really don't see anyone this week that paired up together. I believe, was it the 12:40 time? Oh no, that was one, and okay, never mind. So yeah, we're not really seeing many pair ups. Like, I guess we have Chris Kirk and Maverick McNeely that played together. Now, if you did like Chris Kirk or Maverick McNeely, I think it'd probably be a good thing to play them. But for the most part, we don't really see too many this week, which is kind of a bummer because we've been seeing it quite a bit over the last 3 weeks. We've saw it a bunch of times. This week, not so much. And this is the second week this tournament's happened, so there's not a lot of data, going into this tournament. Maybe it's just not one of those tournaments where if one person, heats up, that another person can easily heat up. I'm not positive. I can't say I really saw a lot of golfers feeding off of each other when I was watching, so I'm not sure if it was just happenstance or what, but that it did not apply. So we're going to go ahead and hide all of this right here. Just get rid of it so we can start talking more about the other information. We really didn't have course history, so I'm also going to hide course history. This was the second year playing. Obviously, the only course history we would have was last year's results, right? So we're not going to go with that. We already talked about recent form, so let's go ahead and hide all of that information. Again, screenshot this, that kind of stuff, because we're not going to talk about ownership percentage. I don't think it really matters. The funny thing is, the highest priced guy or the highest owned guy won the tournament. If you did not play him, you weren't going to win money. I understand the leverage standpoint when it comes to, thinking about ownership and not playing certain golfers because of how high their ownership is. For this scenario, this case, not a smart idea. So I think there are certain people out there that I agree with that say that is kind of a loser's mentality to think of. Like, I'm going to play someone based off of low ownership. Well, you're not choosing players that you think are going to win. You're kind of going, I'm going to go against the grain just to leverage. Sorry if you guys heard that. That was a firework. It is close to 4th of July. So I'm not sure how much we're going to hear of that. If you guys did hear it, that is. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about like the POA events, since this was 80% POA greens. As you can see, we have a bunch of it mixes. Like, we didn't have super good POA golfers at the top of the leaderboard, but Tyrrell Hatton had some of the best POA stats. And actually, let me go ahead and put the DraftKings filter on here. Super annoying. If we were to sort by POA, you can see that the best golfer was Tyrrell Hatton, followed by Hideki Matsuyama. And really everybody... Actually, let me bring back the cuts. I forgot that wasn't there. Okay, there we go. It's better to see this. I almost thought there were no cuts that were at the top. So anyways, we have a bunch of missed cuts for golfers that have done well. But then we also have a bunch of golfers that didn't have a lot of events under their belt to begin with. Now, Victor Hovland ended up getting 12th place. The other guys got 70th place or worse. But then we also have, like, Jason Day, who I have no idea what's going on with Jason Day. Like, that's not I don't know. I would not play Jason Day until he figures something out. There's something weird going on with that guy's game. But like Patrick Reed was kind of surprising. I played a little bit of Patrick Reed, and for him to do that poorly, that is, I don't know. It's weird. It is, again, the second year we've played this tournament, so I don't know how much that plays into account. But we could also sort by POA percentage, how often they are to make the top 10. We see 3 golfers inside the top 12, but we see a bunch of golfers who miss the cut. How about the 2020 POA stats? Probably, it's not a bad stat to go by. It probably would have got you on people like Will Gordon and Patrick Reed, which, you wouldn't have played that much Will Gordon, but I could see you playing quite a bit of Patrick Reed. But if you were to go with Bryson, playing Patrick Reed would have been really difficult. So maybe you just skip to the next golfer in line, which could have been Victor Hovland, or maybe someone who was like 9,000, I don't really see anyone. Like, logically, you'd go to Christian Bezuidenhout, who missed the cut. The next person maybe Adam Hadwin, which would have been a great play. The other person after that would have been Jason Day, which a miscut once again. So perhaps not the best way to go about it, or thinking about it. What I will say is I actually put a stat. So if they were top 20 in the stats I was looking at, so that was overall POA. It was actually course history, recent form, overall POA, shots gained tee to green, shots gained approach, and green in regulation percentage, I believe. I don't think no, it wouldn't have been that. I'd have to look back at the video, but I have all of the stats here, how many times they finished inside the top 20 for the stats I was looking at. And I wanted to see compared to last year, like if we look at 2019 from last year, I did the same thing over here. You had a mix. We did have a lot of golfers that weren't top 20 in any of the stats I was looking at. In 2020, the same thing applies. You know, pretty much the exact same numbers. So 5 and 5. So, you know, find 5 golfers inside the top 10 that actually have stats, you know, and then maybe mix it up with one golfer that does not. And I shouldn't say has stats, has top 20 stats. So yeah, tee to green, if we went there, obviously, we're going to see certain players that we're comfortable with. Tom Lewis didn't have any stats, that's fine. But yeah, Tyrrell Hatton, Hideki Matsuyama, Bryson DeChambeau. Again, these are all top 20 guys. They would have all had one little tick mark here. You can go ahead and see their results. So did tee to green matter? I would say so. I mean, you see a lot of golfers here. Adam Hadwin was even up there. Easily could have created, you know, started with some of these guys and created lineups. Obviously, you needed Bryson. If you didn't, having someone like Tyrrell Hatton or Webb Simpson wouldn't really have helped you. You still could have won money if you got all 6 to 6 through the cut, but you really wanted Bryson. Did off of the tee matter? Obviously, we have Bryson who won the tournament. That's no surprise, but we do have quite a bit of golfers that did finish inside the top 20. Or I should say, yeah, finished inside the top 20 that were top 20 of the off the tee stat. Did approach matter? This was a stat that everyone else was kind of talking about in the industry. So coming into this tournament, we actually had 5 golfers that were top 20 in the stat. Now, again, I shouldn't say again, but it's difficult to pick the right players because if you don't have Bryson DeChambeau, or let's put it this way, if you actually put Bryson on your team, how do you get to a Tyrrell Hatton or a Webb Simpson? You just can't. We already proved that you could get to Victor Hovland, but then, you know, having Bryson, Victor, and Adam Hadwin on your team really hamstrings you to make sure that you have the absolute right lineup. So, approach, you just to find the winner and maybe an Adam Hadwin. So you wanted to find 2 golfers that had approach. Instead of telling you need to find golfers that are good with approach, you know, just find 1 or 2. I mean, that's how people should be telling you guys how to pick players for these lineups. Around the green did not matter, as you can see. Let's go ahead and hide this. That way we can grab some of this other stuff. Don't mind me as I try to hide some of these other useless stats, basically. Okay, so now we have green and reg showing up, and I would say it's basically to find Bryson and Adam Hadwin. That's about it. So like green and reg, yeah, it kind of worked. Proximity, it's not bad to find some of these low price guys like a Seamus Power. I mean, Doc Redman wasn't really a low price guy. All right, I'm gonna take that back. It wasn't. That also was not a good stat to look at. Birdie or better, it would get you on someone like Maverick McNeely, which is awesome. Seamus Power shows up once again, so maybe that's how we get on Seamus Power. It's very interesting. I'm gonna look at that going forward. Driving distance. Driving distance did not seem to matter. How about driving accuracy? Now we see a few up there. Kevin Kisner now shows up. We didn't have him before, and so does Ryan Armour, who was the top of driving accuracy. So that's really interesting to look at. Doc Redman was up there too, your first round leader. Yeah, interesting. It might be something to look forward or look at next year for next year's tournament. Good drive percentage. I don't really see anything that pops out that's like, yep, that's what would have got us on these other guys. How about bogey avoidance? Tyrrell Hatton's at the top. Bogey avoidance. Your top 3 guys finished inside the top 10. We also have Maverick McNeely and Mark Hubbard and Adam Hadwin. So, like, this is actually proven out to Adam Hadwin having those, having all these stats. Maybe going forward, what I do is I look at every single one of my stat categories and add those numbers over the stat column and go with that and try to figure out players, like how well these golfers are doing based off of every single stat that I have. And then that way, when we look at next year's tournament, we'll be able to determine, you know what, let's find all these different stats. Obviously, Adam Hadwin showed up a bunch of times. So did Tyrrell Hatton. So did Bryson DeChambeau. But who we didn't see? Like, we didn't see Danny Willett. He obviously didn't have enough, rounds under his belt. We didn't see Matthew Wolff at all. We did see Kevin Kisner and Ryan Armour on some of those other ones, but I'd have to, look back and definitely dig into that kind of thing. But when it comes to the whole tier selection, so obviously our first tier was from 8,600 and above. There's a first and a fourth place there. I don't think that really. I mean, I guess if we go and we select Bryson and Hatton, Tyrrell Hatton, that takes up 22,400. So obviously leaves us with 22,600. If we were to come down to Tier 2, Adam Hadwin. So Tier 2 was from 8,500 to 7,000. We could go with Adam Hadwin. I don't think we can get on Kisner. Well, actually, that does prove to be a little fruitful. Not fruitful, but we still have a lot. We have enough on the table. Actually, we don't. We have that's not doable. We're using up 38,300, so we would have only 11,700 left, and that does 6,000's our minimum. So we cannot play, like an Adam Hadwin and a Kevin Kisner. But can we play anyone else that's down here? This gives us 12,200 left, which if we were to really dig at the bottom, Jonathan Bird 6,100 and Seamus Power at 6,000. That gives us 49. We're using up 49,900. Seamus Power does tick a mark for one of the stats. Jonathan Bird does not. So I don't see how we get on Jonathan Bird just by looking at, like looking for stats. It just isn't something we can do. So anyways, I'm going to revamp the whole tier selection, but I did want to kind of go over it once again. You guys can screenshot it, pause the video, screenshot it, and just take that information with you. What I think I'm planning to do now is I'm going to change the tier to go 9,000 and above. Change tier 2 to go from, under 9,000, so 8,900 to 7,000 still. And I might I think I'm going to dedicate 3 columns strictly, I'm going to have 3 positions reserved for one tier 1, one tier 2, and one tier 3. And then have 2 other columns mixed up with all of the tiers, and then just post those in there like as a randomization, and then fill in the last column like I typically would, and see how that ends up. Because maybe we have more of a, I don't want to say a conservative lineup, but maybe we have a better lineup I don't know. It's something I'll look into and then show you guys in the next lineup construction video. But I did want to go through all the stats, show you guys. Looking at the bucket system, you know, we really didn't have any buckets we really could go off of except for last week. You do see a bunch of last week ones up here. Obviously, it was our best bucket heading into this. But now we see a lot of 2s show up, and I think that's just primarily because we've been playing a lot of tournaments heading into this. A lot of the golfers are refreshed after the break, so you're going to see more golfers who played last week. I guess let me hide all of this and see if we can bring in that last week event. So our last week 2s were golfers who missed the cut last week. So obviously we go 1, 2, 3 inside the top 5, 4 inside the top 10, which matches actually our 4 last week 1s, and then 2 last week 3s who were golfers who finished inside the top 20. So it'll be interesting to add all this, but of course we didn't have last year buckets. These were more of guesses based off of our other tournaments, or the other tournaments that I have. And it actually played out the way I thought it was going to. So golfers who did not play here the year before show up quite a bit. So obviously I guessed right. Maybe I didn't guess right with the 5s, but usually that 40 to 60 range is either a 4 or a 5. I'm not going to be too, displeased with that. I think the last year buckets, how I guessed rated them, or not guessed. Well, how I try to predict what I would see. I guesstimated. There we go. Estimated. Anyways, so that's it. I really don't have anything else to say. Other than, for the most part, the process worked out nicely. It's just that we didn't play a lot of Bryson. I mean, out of 100 lineups, the process told me to play him 12 times. I ended up playing him more than 12 times. Don't quite remember how many times. I played Bryson in 21 lineups out of 140, so that's 15%. And that was just me adding him. I mean, it was pretty close to that 12% that the system told me to. I was much more on Tyrrell Hatton and definitely on Tony Finau, which did not work out, but hey, that's okay. So yeah, that's the review video that I have for you guys. I hope you guys did well and made a lot of money. I didn't, but I was still pleased to see how the process got us on certain players, and look forward to continuing doing this again. We do have the Workday Charity Open next week, which is kind of a made-up tournament, but it is being played at the same golf course the Memorial Tournament is on. So it is like, we kind of do have course history. I'm going to use everything from the Memorial Tournament for that. So I will see you tomorrow on a preview video for that tournament. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. All right.